2.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to Your Creative Journey Live. My name is Kevin Gregg. So glad to have you here with us tonight. My co-host is the effervescent, lovely, and challenging. What's your name?
I'm one of the two Pauls on the show tonight.
That's right. Hi, Paul Carganilla.
We will call me Polly.
Yes. Tonight we'll call you Polly because we've also got another fantastic guest who's with us. Aerial choreographer, fly rigger, so much stuff that we're going to have to talk to you about. It's Paul Reuben. Hi, Paul. Welcome to the show. Good, man.
Thanks, man. Good to be here.
Look at this. Look at this crew. Hey, let's say hi to all of our YouTube folks that are joining us here tonight. As always, so grateful that you guys are with us. Melissa, Angelica, Diana, Angelica, I said your name again, but I'll say it as many times as I want to. She blessed us last week, man. She ended up giving us a donation through the Your Creative Journey podcast page. So
did she really?
She was amazing. Thank you so much, Angelica. You are an angel. Diana, Kelsey, look at the Dari. Hey, everybody. Meryl's here. I miss Meryl dearly. I wish I could see her in person. Meryl, I miss you dearly. Kelsey, glad to have you here. Brian Reed, as he said in the comments, good evening, and please listen to Motorhead. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Ty rocks. David A. Brown is here. Paul, do you know a David A. Brown? He's saying hello.
Yeah, he's my cousin.
Hey, David. Glad to have you on here. Wait a minute. Christina is here tonight. Hey, Christina, how are you? Christina did such a great job with the social media stuff this week, man. Such a blessing all the time. But it was great. She had a little "Fly Me to the Moon" song that she played behind Paul Rubin stuff.
Clever girl.
Really cool. I don't get it.
Hey, gang, if you want to, throughout the course of the show, as we're recording, if you feel like you have a question that you want to ask Paul Rubin as we're going about, please type it in capital letters. If you feel like you want to support the show and throw us a super chat, we will definitely give you a shout out, and thanks for that. And we want to just say thank you for all of your continued support with the show. I think we're going to dive right into it because, Paul, you got some business to get to because your family is moving and shaking, brother.
Leaving on a jet plane first thing in the morning.
I love it. All right, man. Let's start it out. Paul, let's have you introduce it. What do you think, buddy? Yeah?
Again? Sure,
why not? Here we go. I'm recording on this side for all of our stuff. Our audio podcast starts in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Love that music from the Swells. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another week of the Your Creative Journey podcast. So happy to have you here. I'm Paul Carganilla.
And I am Kevin Gregg. Welcome to the show that is designed to help you get your creative work done. We want to inspire you. We want to help you, whether you're an actor, writer, director, singer, musician, technician, painter, ballet artist. What else could they be, Paul?
You're an entrepreneur and you have a creative spirit because you have to be creative today in small business. Seriously. Whether it's social media marketing, or just figuring out new ways to connect with people in these crazy times. No matter what it is that you do professionally, we know that you're a creator at heart, and we thank you for being here with us. We hope we can inspire you again this week.
Well, we're so glad to have you here. We have great guests that show up and share their creative journey, the challenges and the things that they have gone through. And tonight we've got a unique thing. We've got something that we've never had before on the show, and somebody that I don't think I've ever met in this field. He is a flying sequence choreographer and designer who's designed some of the most memorable flying sequences, from the Tony Award-winning Broadway musical Wicked to Cathy Rigby's Tony-nominated Peter Pan. He is a proud member of the Academy of Magical Arts. That's the Magic Castle, and also he's from I.A.T.S.E, Local 702. Welcome to the show, aerial choreographer Paul Rubin. Hey, man. Hi.
How you doing?
Good.
What an intro.
Well, so great to have you here. Thank you for joining us.
I just need to interject. It's 720. 702 is the area code of Las Vegas.
Oh, is that right?
That's it. Yeah. So it's local 720.
There you go. Must have transposed some stuff. So there you go. We'll fix it.
No worries, man. No worries.
Well, glad to have you on the show. Hey, Paul Rubin, we're going to dive right in here as we always do at the top of the show. We start out the show asking people what was the best thing that happened in their week. I'm going to start with Paul Carganilla because he's got a lot on his plate. And then I think we'll go to our other Paul after that. But
Sure.
Paul Carganilla, and please feel free, Paul Rubin, to jump in here. Paulie, what was the best thing that happened to you this week, buddy?
Tell you, Cav, we had a blessing. Our Saturday night show. I know I always say like it was the highlight of my week, but it's like always the highlight of my week. But this week we did like a Valentine's Day thing where we did something totally experimental, and my wife and I told our story from when we met to when we like got married and had kids and beyond. But we mixed it live on the YouTubes with live music throughout, like as the soundtrack of the tale, and improvised scenes. And we had some Shakespeare in there because Jamie and I, the first thing we ever did together was a Shakespeare scene, and some of our cast members performed that scene. And it was crazy. It's always a super epic story. Whenever anybody says, tell us your story, I'm like, oh, how much time do we have? But I had no idea it ended up being a 7-hour long show, Kevin.
What are you talking about? What time did you guys start at?
We started at 6 like we do every Saturday, and we didn't finish the show until 1 a.m. But it was, I had no idea like how it would go over, if it would just go over like a fart in church, or if people would love it.
Yeah.
But like at 1 a.m. we still had like 60 people, we were still in 60 households. And it was crazy. I've gotten so much amazing feedback, but the most important thing that like I took away from it was what a gift it was from the performers. Everybody involved in the show to take a risk on something like this, but then also just to give this to Jamie and I, because now this is something we have forever.
Wow.
And we can share it with our kids, and their kids can share it with their kids, and like everything about it was just so much fun and entertaining and just fun to be a part of. And
who came up with the concept to try this week?
I did. I felt really bad leading up to it because I felt like it was too much. I never want to make the show too much about me. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, well, this week is all about my wife and I'm telling the story about my life. And so I'm doing the opposite of what I tried to do every week. But like everyone was so on board, and like people in the chat were just like, I'm sobbing, and they were getting on people's sides. Like we had the different cast members playing different people from my past, and they're just jumping in and performing scenes, and it was so much fun. But what a blessing it was. It was amazing, and I can't thank enough everyone who was involved and everyone who watched it. So thank you.
Cool.
Guys.
If you haven't seen it, head back on VaudacityNetwork.com. Take a look through the live stream replays, and you'll get to see the story of Paul and Jamie that was done back around Valentine's Day. So go check that out. Wow, super long improv, buddy.
7 hours to spare.
Well, you can break it up, right? It'll be like a video.
Exactly, yeah. And a lot of people were like, I got to tell you, I cut out at like 10, but I watched the rest the next night, and it was like, oh my God. So
that's amazing, buddy.
Hey, does anybody ever make the Mad About You reference about Paul and Jamie?
Paul and Jamie, not anymore. People.
Oh my gosh! How have I never made that connection?
Did I just date myself?
No. First of all, that show was so fantastic. And my gosh, I never even thought of that, buddy. Weird.
Yeah. Sorry.
Paul Rubin, look at you. What a dude. Paul Rubin. Now look at that. We're going to go to you, buddy. What was the best thing that happened to you this last week, man?
Well, there was a couple of things that happened this week that I'm really happy about. One, my wife, my mom, all of my aunts and all of my uncles got vaccinated. So they're all awesome. They're all on the way of, being safe.
Congratulations.
Which is great. Man. Makes me feel really good.
We were talking about that. So that means an entire brood of people that had 2 to 3 days of one sore arm, right?
Well, that means I can go over and start poking them, and they can't fight back. It's like, okay, I'll get you.
That's amazing, man. Huge.
And then last week we had a huge snowstorm here. We got about 21 inches of snow. So let people know where you're at. You're out in. I'm on Staten Island in New York.
Oh my gosh.
I'm in one of the boroughs. right next to New York City.
Wow.
And it's
There
so
you go.
So my daughter and I built a 6-foot tall snowman.
Amazing, man.
Yeah.
Amazing. Isn't that nice, man?
It was a lot of fun.
I love it. Well, you're basically sheltering down and trying to stay as warm as possible, dude. I'm glad that you had that, man, this week.
Staying as warm as possible, getting buried in snow. That's it.
I was gonna say building a snowman is not warm.
I know, man. Awesome,
Kevin,
Paul.
what
Yes,
was
sir.
the best thing that happened to you this week?
Again, I'm so super grateful. We have to pivot and adapt and change so much over this last year with stuff that's happened work wise. I'm telling you, man, I've been working with a couple of clients using Upwork and doing some creative writing stuff. I am not getting paid I'm not getting paid to advertise them on the show. But I've been so grateful, man. I've been connected with a couple of companies and some individuals. It's been awesome. Right now, I'm working with a educational software company that's up in Toronto, getting to do some creative consulting with them. And it's just a blessing, man. It's a blessing to be able in a situation where I can go, okay, everything disappeared last year suddenly, right? I don't know if I've told this on the show or whatever, but working in Disney, I was doing some contract work. And I remember the last day that I walked off property, which was on March 18th. And here's a little behind the scenes stuff. At the time I was doing contract work, and you're usually just you're a gun for hire. So you're coming in, you're getting paid, they don't take out taxes, any of that stuff. And I remember I walked off property on the 18th. They had said, we're just going to shut down the park for 2 weeks. And I thought to myself, well, here's the deal. I'm working on some other stuff with their educational program. And I think I could probably bill out $3,000 to $4,000 worth of stuff to kind of help pad me as I try to figure out. And I remember I got home and I called up my supervisor that was at Disney as they were going through some stuff. And he said, Kevin, we have to stop paying you today. So we love you.
What?
We cannot afford it, because they had to just make like massive cuts. And so to think about being in that situation where I was a year ago, to see where I have, survived by the grace of God, over the last year, thank God. It is possible. It is possible to use your creative talents and to still stay alive and stay afloat. So that's just what I wanted to say. It was one of the best things that happened this week.
And you are essential.
I am essential. That's correct. Anybody that's out there is creative. We need your creative work. And speaking of creative work, this is fascinating. Paul Rubin, you are an aerial choreographer. So here's my question to you. What in the world is that, and how did you get involved in it?
Wow. Well, actually, let me just start by saying, when I worked on The Little Mermaid, Disney's Little Mermaid, I had to change my title to flying choreographer. Because I could not say aerial choreographer, because everyone would be really confused with that.
Yeah,
of course they would. Of course they would.
Like 2 Pauls in a 3-person show.
So Paul, what is this? How did you get involved in this line of work? Was it something that you knew that you wanted to do, or did you stumble into it?
Oh, I stumbled into it big time. I actually, when I was growing up, I had no idea that there was even a position or a career in that, But I think it all started way back when I was like 8 or 9, and my aunt bought me a magic kit, and I took to magic. The Doug Henning magic kit with the top hat and the rabbit. And just like that. And it's gone.
Look at that. It's gone. Ooh, magic.
Just don't look behind you. Don't look behind. And I loved fooling people. I loved, amazing them, doing all these amazing things and tricking them. And I don't want to say deceiving in a fun way. And from there, I just started doing more and more magic. And at one point I was doing birthday parties and weddings and bar mitzvahs as I was going through high school. But I also took to acting at that point too. So I was doing a little bit of the acting because, I was already on stage and going into high school and doing the spring musicals. And the high school that I went to wasn't geared for the performing arts, but it had a nice performing arts program.
Oh, cool.
And they had a program called Sing, where the students write, direct, produce the show, with a supervisor.
Dude, so good. So
it
good.
was
I had
great.
I had a version of that was in college where it was almost like you had a space and just go for it. And you just had like faculty supervision, you know?
Just based on the name, I'm assuming it was musical.
It was, yes, it was a
Okay.
musical.
Yeah.
And you could either write your own music if you had that ability, or you just steal a song, a pop song, and you change the lyrics to it.
Yeah. Wow.
So I took the pop song and changed the lyrics to it.
Sure you did.
The first year I was a backstage crew member as a sophomore. As a junior, I became the technical director, and as a senior, I directed the show. And as a director, I also wrote it with not by myself. I had a writing team and a producing team and a set team. So we all worked together. But
so you just dove in. I mean, it must have just like pushed all of the buttons and all of the things. You just said, I
all of my
can't get enough
sensory
of this.
overload. No, I loved it. I loved not only on stage but backstage, the creating, the designing, and I loved how everything just came together. It's you get a little bit of this, a little bit of this, and then it just meshes, and you create the show, and it's telling a great story.
Did you come from a artistic background, anything in your family at all, or no?
Not performing wise. My dad was a writer. He's a published author, and he was a editor in chief for a couple of sports trade publications.
Gotcha.
And my mom is an artist. So she would, like, for my dad's book, she did all the illustrations.
Great.
Wow.
So there was a little bit of that. So it was like,
a little bit,
people that actually made a living creatively. So that's great.
Correct. But I mean, nothing on the performing arts side, or I should say the theatrical performing arts side.
Yeah. So you have this experience, and then what's your next steps after that?
From there, I moved once I graduated high school, I went to college at UNLV, University of Nevada, Las Vegas.
Yeah.
And I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I wasn't sure if I wanted to be an actor or backstage, designing, lighting or set design. So I had a dual track. I was taking classes in both. Mm. And a friend of mine was the secretary for a flying company. And they were in the process of looking for a young college kid to clean up the shop and fix equipment when it came back broken. I'm like, I could do that for, a couple afternoons a week and whatever.
And when you say a flying company, it was it was
Flying by Foy.
Flying by Foy.
Yeah, Peter Foy. Do you know who Peter Foy is?
You're gonna have to tell me, and you're gonna have to let the audience know as well.
Okay. Well, Peter Foy is a genius. He was the one who brought the flying into the United States in the late 50s. He's the one who taught Jean Arthur and Mary Martin how to fly for Peter Pan.
Gotcha.
He taught Sally Field how to fly for the Flying Nun.
Okay.
So he did 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, the film. I mean, anything that had flying, Peter Foy did.
My gosh, yeah. Would he have done like Thunderball stuff, or any aquatic things where they were like faking underwater stuff, or
for where though? For where?
Well, yeah, I'm just trying to think, because I would wonder if there may have been some underwater scenes that they might have tried to fake by having people fly instead of actually filming underwater,
Did he for 20,000 Leagues they did, yes.
Okay, got it.
When I did Creature from the Black Lagoon at Universal Studios. We did what dry for wet, wet for dry.
Okay.
When you simulate swimming, but there's no water.
That's right.
And I did a synchronized simulated swimming sequence with the lead female and Gil, the creature.
Wow, fascinating.
That was a blast.
So you end up working in Las Vegas as sort of like this college kid that's like, all right, clean this gear. So the Foy system's in there at this company in Las Vegas, yeah?
Right. And when I started working there, I had no idea how expansive this company was, and I had no idea. I just knew that they flew people, which again, at the point I had no idea that even existed.
Sure.
But I met with Peter, and he was very impressed with my theatrical background, the fact that I was a magician and an actor, and I would work backstage. He goes, I think you'd be better suited going on the road. Would you be interested in choreographing, Peter Pans and stuff? And I'm like, Yeah.
I think
That's
so.
amazing. How old were you at the time when this offer came to you?
I was 19 turning 20.
Can you believe that? Hey kid,
Yeah.
hey kid, here's the deal. I see that you're cleaning up the wires. You do good. But I really like your style. I like how you are. You
You're
going on the
making it
road.
creepy, Kevin. You're making it creepy.
You're sounding too much like hey, I'm making an offer. And
I mean, that was
he was from England, so different
oh,
accent.
okay. All right then.
That's much better.
I say it's time for you to get on the road, Paul. Let's go. So what was this? So that means you had to leave college.
Well, I stayed as long as I could,
Mhm.
juggling both classes and stuff. But being on the road, it took me away from classes, so I had to put that aside for the moment. But he was my mentor. I mean, I was his protege, and the guy who taught Mary Martin how to fly is now teaching me how to do the trade, and it was just incredible.
Was there, I'm assuming at some point you basically had to get yourself rigged up so that you could have the experience and see what that was. And did that terrify you at all, or?
It was a great excuse. Is what it was.
That's amazing.
Yes, I had to. So because I couldn't put an actor in the air and not know what they're experiencing.
Mhm.
So I had to put on a harness so I know how uncomfortable it was. I had to do like the somersaults and the flips and all of that, so I knew what the body was going to feel.
Yeah.
But even now, like when I do more intricate flying, I will put myself in a harness and I will do it just to make sure that it's possible and again experience what they're experiencing, just so I can explain it to them and walk them through the process a lot easier.
Wow.
And up to that point, had you ever had like movement classes, like dance, or were you in any sort of stage combat or anything like that?
I played football. That's about
Counts.
it.
Played with
I ran when people chased me. That's no.
I
really.
say you're perfect. Let's go. I say.
You sound
Dash.
like Dudley Moore in
That's it.
Arthur.
Well, my wife was just watching that the other day, so maybe that's why it's
Oh,
stuck in my head.
okay.
I say,
I'm
Paul, run across that warehouse. Perfect. Let's go.
put on his tutu. I did take a couple of movement classes in college, but nothing that really helped me do what I do here.
When you're doing this stuff, I'm assuming like safety precautions. There's a certain amount of risk that's involved in it. Um, when you're testing something out, how do you guys do this? Do you have like huge nets up and stuff, like in a warehouse or something, to test out things
Well,
when you're
no, because
trying?
we know what the system can do. We know how strong the cables are and the pulleys and the track, so we know what we can't exceed that way. So we know it's not gonna break. So we know it's no one's gonna fall.
Yeah.
If it's a manual system, the weakest link is the operator, is the person holding the ropes.
Really?
But more so now, things are going towards automation and motors and such. So people are just pushing buttons instead of pulling ropes.
And I'm assuming that you guys must have to do like regular cable inspections and
Oh
testing all of
yeah.
that stuff, and it's absolutely essential, right?
Oh, it's
Um,
thorough inspections. There's daily, then we do like twice a week, and then a week, depending upon what show it is and what the system is.
have things, I know I might be jumping way ahead of myself on this, but have you guys also incorporated like a digital component to this? I mean, I know that there's something about like doing spot checking and stuff, but is there any sort of digital measuring or anything that you do on any of these cables now at all to check for their strength or durability, anything like that?
Well, we know how long a cable lifespan should be,
Mhm.
and we always we during our daily checks we mark down anything that we see. Everything is dated, so we know how long a cable has been used. We know, for me, like if I'm flying somebody, I'll mark how much weight they are, so I know what the loads are going to be for the entire sequence, just so I know how long the cable can last.
Now listen, there's no joking around, because you cannot have an actor come in and say, well, I actually weighed this much. Right? It's like, no. You're getting on that scale, and we're getting your actual weight. Yeah.
Well, see, that's what I used to do a really bad joke, because I would say, I just, honestly, I need to know how much you weigh. Well, you know what? Don't tell me how much you weigh. I just need to know that you don't weigh more than, and I knew I would know how much they weigh because they would write it down on a harness chart. So I say, just tell me you don't weigh more than 155, because the cables are rated for 155, and I knew they weighed 170. And their face they'd be all smiley like this, and they go, really? It's a great way to break the ice.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny, man. So funny. Well, when you guys are also putting stuff up, do you also do, I'm thinking about how they do ride systems and stuff at Disney when they test stuff. Do you guys also have like weighted dummies or bags or stuff like that you use to put stuff up in the air?
Yeah, like for example, when I was on tour with Peter Pan, I was flying Cathy Rigby. And there was a sequence at the very end of the show where she would fly out over the audience.
Yeah.
And it was a simple pendulum. All it is rope to a pulley, a rope to cable over a pulley, and then another pulley and down. Okay. It's a 1-to-1 system, the most basic flying system you can use. But since it's a 1-to-1, every foot I pull on the rope, she goes up a foot. But the cable doesn't come straight down, it's at an angle. So as soon as you pull it, she's going to start swinging.
Yeah.
And sometimes I have to jump into the pit or off of a 10-foot ladder just to get enough lift. So as I'm jumping off the ladder, I'm pulling the rope, because I need about 15, 20 feet of lift to get her high enough so she doesn't hit the audience.
Are you jumping into a mat or something like that, or what are you doing?
No, I'm a perfect counterweight. Because I have her at the other end.
Got it.
So I have her weight counterbalance, and I weighed probably 50 to 60, 70 pounds more than she did.
Okay.
So I would definitely win the fight,
Gotcha.
and then to let her down, I would just belay her in or just, burn the rope. But to test it out, I would always have to put a little bit more weight on the line than she weighs to make sure that I can do it.
Right.
So I would always put 125 pounds, even though I knew she was a lot less than that.
And would it just be like bags, like sandbags and stuff like that?
Yeah, sandbag would be a sandbag.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah, it is. It's insane.
When you're doing this stuff and trying to like what's the deal when you're actually holding on to these cables, these ropes? I mean, are you just is there like a hook or a handle, or do you have to wrap yourself around it? What are you doing?
No, I just hold with both hands, and then there's a loop on the floor, so it's like the pull line and then the slack line. So as you pull down, it goes up.
Okay.
So the slack doesn't pile up on the floor. And then since there's a little belly at the bottom, once you have them in where you want them, you can step on the rope. So you're using your body weight also, so you don't have to really exert as much muscle.
Gotcha. I love this. Brian reads over here. He's going, the math is mind blowing, and destruction testing is the most fun thing to watch. What's destruction testing?
Oh, destruction testing is incredible. It's when you take cable or whatever you're testing, and you pull it and stretch it till it breaks. Like, for example, an 1/8-inch cable breaks around 2,000 pound, 2,000 pound test.
Okay.
So you actually have a machine that pulls cable like this, and it'll pull it and pull it and pull it and pull it until it snaps. And then you can watch how it breaks.
Really?
It's a load test.
Now, does that make like a pop, or is it just like a ping, or what the heck?
It makes a really loud sound.
Does it really?
Like scary loud.
Like gun, like cannon, like something like that. Like it's
between a gun and a cannon. Yeah. It actually depends on what you're breaking.
Now wait a second.
The scariest part is as you're watching it, it's like anticipation. You're like, it's gonna break. No, yeah, no. It's crazy.
Wait a minute. Is there any projectile stuff or anything that comes off the cables when that happens?
Sometimes, but it's a plexiglass thing in front of you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It reminds me of like opening a Pillsbury crescent roll thing. And you're like,
Oh, exactly.
how much more? How much more? Oh, it got me.
Yeah.
Put it in the machine. Put it in the machine. I love this. Brian Reed's in there. Brian Reed was saying that I was leaning towards design factors, which in a nutshell means you never put full capacity load on anything. You're usually running with a minimum 10 to 1 safety factor.
A 10 to 1 safety factor. That is correct.
Yeah.
Brian, you remember your numbers.
Yes, he does. Oh my gosh. Now look at this. Now look at this. I've basically, here's the cool thing. It's like I've got Brian in the comments as for like feeding me like little great questions to ask you.
You should have been a co-host tonight.
I know, right? How awful is it to burn through your gloves when landing an audience flight? Have you ever burned through your gloves when you've been doing that?
Yes. Yes, I have.
Now wait a second. How the heck does that happen?
It's called heat and friction.
I'm saying quiet. All right, that's it for our show, everybody. Thanks for joining us. And
rolls. Oh my goodness.
Wait a minute. What the image that I have is that the cable has now burned through the actual gloves, or am I wrong? It's the burn
that is correct. Yes, but it's not cable, it's rope. It's rope.
Okay.
We're not pulling onto it's not wire rope, it's nylon rope or whatever company.
So you've had this rope burn through your gloves.
Correct.
What the heck?
And many years ago, when I first started doing this, I did a glove test. I went through every single glove I can find, whether it was a batting glove, a golfing glove, gardening gloves, welding gloves, trying to find the best glove where I can get the best grip, but be able to feel the rope and have as much control as possible.
Of course.
And I found these Newman wide receiver tackified gloves.
Say it again. So they're what? They're Newman what? Say it again.
They're wide receiver tackified. It's their trademark name.
Okay.
Tackified. It's not tactified. It's tackified.
Gotcha.
So it's got these. It's a little bit sticky. And it gives a little bit of a better grip when you start pulling. But once you burn through the rope 2 or 3 times, the stickiness is gone. But you still have that thin layer of cowhide.
Yeah.
But depending upon what you're doing, if you're doing like a couple of flights where you're burning through the rope, you can burn through a pair of gloves in 5 or 6 shows, maybe a week. Yeah. My assistant Jimmy Little, when we were flying Cathy, he would burn through a pair of gloves a week.
Whew. You ever get down to ever get down to skin at all or no?
Oh yeah. And I had calluses and it was bad. But what we would do to make our gloves last longer, once it started to get a hole, we would take spike tape or electrician's tape and we would wrap our gloves. And we would I would try and find the tape that matched the glove color because I had like 7 or 8 different colors.
Yeah.
But I think Jimmy would try and find colors that didn't match. So he looked like rainbow.
Fascinating. We got to get to this stuff, which is like more intricate rope systems and stuff that you've done. And also the fact we were talking before the show, Paul, about the fact that you've got other shows that are in different parts of the world right now. But let's start here with the more intricate flying systems and rope systems that you've done. And what was that like approaching them? I'm sure that they were scary, intimidating. I don't know.
A little bit. Well, when you say rope systems, you're talking about the actual flying system itself.
Yeah. Yes. Unless I've got it wrong, please correct me on any.
No. Well, they're called flying systems or track systems, or fly rigs, however you want to word it. Some are manual and some are automated. Manual have ropes that operators pull, and then automated ones are controlled by winches and motors and computers. Mm-hmm. For example, it was in 2017, I worked with Franco Dragone on a show in Dubai. Franco Dragone he used to work for Cirque du Soleil. He was their artistic director.
Okay, great.
And he directed O and Le Rêve and the Celine Dion show. Wow. And a bazillion others. Yeah. But I was hired as his creative flying director for La Pearl in Dubai. And I had 16 winches. And with these 16 winches, I can combine them and I can either have a single point, or I can have an interrelated system where you have 2 points coming to one.
Okay.
Or I can have 3D system where you have 3 lines coming to one.
Okay.
And with that, it just gives you more momentum, more mobility, and you can fly in a bigger area.
Okay.
So with those 16 winches, I created 1 3D flight, 3 2D flights, and 5 single points. And at one point during the number, I had 18 people in the air.
Holy smokes.
It was insane. And that's the most I've ever flown at one point.
Wow. And so when you're saying a 3D flight, this is somebody that can go back and forward, up and down, side to side.
And side to side. Yeah.
Wow. So it really feels like, oh my gosh, like this person has just got full, like,
it's just I had him coming down into a spiral right into the pool.
oh my gosh. So you had
it's really cool.
You had 18 people at one point in the air. How many people are operating those machines as they're going?
Well, the way this show ran, there was one person by each winch.
Okay.
Because you have to have a person hooking somebody up at each winch. And then there's actually 2 operators. One operator that does all of the presets and the sets. And then once they're set, then it goes to show control, and then the show operator operates the sequence.
Okay.
And then once the sequence is over, they take it to the end and then pass it back to the secondary operator, and then he does the dismounts.
Wow.
Because while they're dismounting and doing all of that stuff and the hooking and the unhooking of the performers,
yes,
the show operator is working on the next number.
Yep. I'm telling you, man, you have to be like so precise and have to make sure that everything, because it can be somebody's life, you know?
Oh yeah. Oh, it's insane. And Seth, the guy that was my show rigger for that show, was impeccable. He was the best. I mean, he did a lot of Cirque du Soleil shows, so he's familiar with that industry. And he was just great. And like, if I would say, I want to do this, he goes, why don't you try doing it this way? I'm like, oh, okay, let's do it that way. And because it makes his life easier.
Yes.
And not that what I was trying to do was wrong, but if he did it his way, I mean, I'm still getting my flying effect, but the hooking up process and getting them set and doing it that way, it's an easier process for him.
I totally get it. Most challenging thing that you've had happen in your career so far?
Losing my COVID weight during the pandemic.
So stupid. So stupid. So stupid. Yeah, I got 18 people in there with that COVID weight, man.
COVID, man.
This is the worst.
35 pounds. Got to get rid of it.
You want to talk about life and death?
Paul, do you do any work on film and stuff too, or is it strictly live shows?
I did film a while ago. I don't like film because it's like a hurry up and wait type of thing, and I like the live energy. You got one chance to do this and that's it. I do a lot in the TV. Last season I did a couple of episodes of Kevin Can Wait, and I flew Kevin James.
Nice.
Yeah, great guy.
That's great.
So I do more TV than film, but I prefer the live stuff.
Any actor that had to do it, but was like absolutely freaked out with the whole process? Like,
actually, believe it or not, Kevin James.
Really?
We did the last shot that we did. He had to rappel over a billboard and spray paint on the billboard as he's swinging back and forth.
Oh my gosh!
And the billboard was probably, I want to say, maybe 18, 20 feet off the ground.
Okay.
And he's got a repeller on him, so he's controlling the whole thing.
Of course.
And right before he goes over, he goes, Paul, I can't do this. I'm like, well, you can. You're safe. You're not going to fall. He goes, I'm afraid of heights. I can't do this. Why am I doing this? I'm like, Kevin, you wrote this in the script. You could have changed that. But he was great. The best thing about him is every sequence that I did with him, one and done. He never had to do a second time. The first one was pretty crazy. He had to hang upside down, suspended by his legs, for 2 minutes.
Say that
and
one more
deliver lines.
time. He was doing what? He was doing what?
He was hanging upside down
Upside
by his
down.
legs
Yeah.
for 2 minutes and delivering lines.
Oh my gosh. The amount of blood going to his head.
So professional. You know, he was eager to do it. I don't think he wanted to do it again, which is probably why he didn't write it again in the script. But yeah, he did it, and he was great.
I used to get the worst headache. I did a limited time thing at Disneyland. We were previewing the 4th Pirates movie, and I was playing a pirate. Hunter, who's in the chat, was one of them too.
Yeah.
And at the end of the show, the lights would go down, and then they'd come up, and all of us pirates would be hanging upside down, yelling at the audience. And I would get the worst headaches just from doing that. And I was just like, how do people like do this professionally and like on a regular basis? You got to have the right, you got to be in shape and have the right
condition. You got to condition yourself. You can do it as long as you condition.
I know, right? I know.
Yeah.
So what for you, what would you think, what are the things that you've learned for yourself along the way in this career? Because obviously you're learning as you go. I'm sure that you're continually challenging yourself. What are the things that you would be passing along to somebody else that said, hey man, I want to go a path like this?
Definitely think of safety first before you jump into it. Just know that you've got somebody else's life at the other end of the line, you know, and you can't go haphazard. Even though it's something you really want to do, you got to think about the person on the other end. And I've actually, tomorrow is my anniversary. I've been doing it for 33 years tomorrow.
Right on.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I've picked up through the years, you know, I push the envelope. I try and go as far as I can go, pushing the equipment, trying to go faster, higher, better, but always thinking that there's another person at the other end.
Yeah.
And if I ever think of something that looks scary or looks dangerous, again, I'll put myself in it. I'll put myself in the harness and I'll run the sequence just to see how bad it is. But then I also have to put in perspective that this person's never flown before. So I have to take into consideration that there's going to be a huge learning curve for them, for one. I mean, I'm used to it. I did a thing in Barcelona and I flew 125 feet in the air over an intersection. So it was insane. But to me, it was a blast. And people look at the picture and they go, holy crap, really? You did that? I'm like, yeah. Some people think it's blue screen. I'm like, no, it's real. So it's, and the reason why I wanted to do it was because it was crazy enough for people to freak out. And if I get in the harness and I do it and I show them that it's safe, then they'll have more trust in me.
Yes. There's something that happens, man, especially with, just as you were talking about that, a flash that came in my mind is like the vitalness that happens when we see things in real life, when we see things that are sort of, for more or less better word, practically done, right? Because everybody wants to say, well, let's just, you know, if it was film, let's just CGI it. Let's just, you know, whatever. But there's something that happens when you see that stuff practically happen, that there is a visceral feeling that happens. Is that a challenge that happens for you? I mean, I know that you do like a lot of live productions. What's the argument that you make to go, listen, I know you want to go this route, but go this route instead, you know?
I say it's going to look more natural. You're going to get a more realistic flight if you do it this way than if you do it this way.
Yeah.
And it might, depending upon the process, it might even be less expensive to go, you know, the wire route instead of the green screen route.
No, I totally get that. I really, really do get that.
You know, and depending upon the system and the harness that you use, you can make the flight look effortless. They can look like they're just floating in the air.
Yeah. Amazing, amazing stuff.
Have you ever played Tom Cruise as stunt double?
You could.
Thinking that, was I the only one thinking?
Yeah, but I don't want to break my ankle jumping from one building to another.
So happened what Mission Impossible 5, he does his stuff all the time.
Yeah, I know.
Jumped off and did the same thing, man. Crazy.
I was thinking
he's insane.
first I was thinking it must be like such a small industry that everybody knows each other and everybody's known each other for a long time. But then I started to think, and Brian Reed said the same thing in the thing. What is the difference between what doing the flying in stage shows, live productions, and what stunt people do, that kind of choreography with rigs and stuff on set? I'm sure it's more intricate. There's more of like, it's more of a compact and more choreographed thing. But is there a lot of bleed over between like people who do stunts in films and what you do in live theater? Like, is it the same kind of job, or are they two completely different things?
They're two completely different things. Like the people that do stunts, I mean, they're not just doing wire work. They're doing all kinds of stunts, like car chases and fights and fire and all of that. Whereas I'm limited to the flying aspect, to direct wire work, choreography. I do like matrix fights. So
Oh yeah.
like I've done a few live fighting sequences that look like the Matrix.
Wow.
Yeah. Which is great. But because I'm doing it live, and I have to remember that these performers have to do it 8 times a week.
Yeah.
Whereas once you're doing a film, you get it in the can, you're done, you're moving on. You know, let's set up for the next shot. So I always have to keep that in mind too, that it's not doing it one and done. You got to duplicate this 8 times a week.
Oh gosh. Boy, that is something that Paul and I have experienced over the years with just doing live performance. You get people that just go, this is going to be amazing. This is fantastic. It's great. And then you go, that's unsustainable. Like that's unsustainable. Like you're going to burn through your cast so fast with stuff. So you have to put that in mind. Go ahead.
Well, that's one of the things that when I say one of the biggest issues that I had with that show in Dubai, because they were doing 10 shows a week. And I had to make sure that these performers can do that 10 times a week.
Yes.
But then we had subs, so we would sub it out. So one person wouldn't be doing the same track 10 times. They might do it 5 times and 5 times, or 4 times and 6 times. You know, so we got to spread it out, which was great.
It's a big challenge that a lot of people don't understand, like especially as when you're casting shows or doing stuff, like people go, this is amazing, and how big it is behind the scenes, because you really have to go like 3, 4, 5 casts deep, you know, to realize that the show can just keep going. It's hard. It's hard, you know?
It is. It's crazy. It is.
So here's the thing. Here's a question I have. Here's the thing.
There's always a thing. Always a thing.
There's always a thing. Do you have like little miniature models in order to test this stuff, or what do you do? Oh my gosh. Now it's either going to be something really cool or it's going to be a joke. Oh, look at this. He's literally got this. Okay.
I got this guy.
Yes.
And I got him when I was doing Creature from the Black Lagoon. And I had to simulate what he was going to do. So I rigged up a little harness here, a little pick points, and I actually had thread, you know, and I was actually flying him around with this guy.
Yeah. Wow.
Now, whenever I do an automated flying sequence, I try and find something similar to the character that I'm flying, so I can show to the programmer that I want to do this, and I want to fly, and I want to do this, I want to go all around. And I have, like, I use this when I was doing Little Mermaid.
Aerial choreographer.
I love it.
So right, aerial. So, and I would actually use this as I was flying around. So I would say, I want them to go up, I want them to rotate, I want them to dive down, and it's a better visual for them.
Yeah.
So instead of me pointing or drawing, they can actually see it.
Let me tell you an aside that's very funny. For those of you that are on the audio podcast or even in the YouTube podcast, this is something that's going to give you an aside of, sorry, I'm completely going off the rails. And it so ties in with what you're talking about. So if you heard, there was a bunch of loud noise and a bunch of shouting and laughing in my house, because just as you guys were talking, my son Duncan is a huge fan of Creature of the Black Lagoon stuff. Oddly enough, Kate decided to take a Creature of the Black Lagoon mask and she put it in Maddie's room. So as soon as he came home from work, it was all put up and just like just as she was coming home, I was like, as you're talking and you're talking about Creature of the Black Lagoon, I'm like going, what is all that laughing? And I go, oh yeah, she just scared Maddie half to death with a Creature of the Black Lagoon dummy. So my apologies, but look at that. Look at how it just sort of all kind of came together.
Comes full circle.
It sure does. Paul, last thoughts that you might have for anyone that's going this route. Obviously, I think that one of the big things that you talked about is, I think that sometimes we have these images or ideas of the things that we want to do, right? And I think that that's amazing. Like when you're talking about, like, I want to try this and we're going to hire and faster and all that, but you have to counter it yourself to go, hold on, I also have to make sure that there's a practicality or safety to that. So it seems like that's sort of like seasoned wisdom that you're able to give, that I feel that goes across any sort of creative field, where it's like people just want to go, yeah, I want to get to it. I want to do this. I want to do this. And there is a little bit of like, okay, but let's figure out like the reasoning and the practicality and the other stuff that also goes with it, right? I get approached, or Paul will get approached by people to go, yeah, I want to act. I want to do all this stuff. And you have to go, okay, that's great. It's the one thing that I always tell people to go, yeah, that's great. You can do this. It just takes work, focus, determination, you know? So that's something that really stuck out to me, what you said. Is there any other pearls of wisdom that you would like to give to somebody that's trying to get into a creative career, things that you've learned over the years?
Just know what you're doing. Talk to people. There are all professionals out there that will always give advice to anybody that wants to learn, to know. I've picked a lot of brains, whether it's choreography, whether it's dance, rigging. Just because you're a professional in the business doesn't mean you know everything. A day that you go that you don't learn something is a day wasted. And
whoa, please say that again. Please say that one more time.
I don't know if I can.
A day you go without learning is a day wasted.
Is a day wasted.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
What a fantastic thing.
And it's true. And I look forward to it. Every time I go to a new theater, it's just a new playground. It's a new experience, and you're learning, even though it's a theater, you're learning what you can and can't do. What are your limitations?
Yeah.
But regardless, you want to know as much as you could know. And I hate to go back to what I said earlier, is whatever you do, just make sure that it's safe. Don't think because you've seen pictures and you've seen a video that you know how to rig it, and you go to Home Depot and you buy rope and cable and you get a rappelling harness.
Whew.
You can't do that.
Yeah.
The rappelling harness isn't designed to fly people. It's designed to rappel. And you can't get a safety harness, just because it's a harness and it has a pick point. It's not designed for that. It's designed to prevent you from dying. It's not to help you to fly.
Gotcha.
So there are specific harnesses that are designed for flying, and those are the harnesses that you should use.
I would say, walking away from that, do your research, ask for wisdom, ask for knowledge, do your homework. Don't jump into it. There's a spirit of doing that stuff, but do your homework.
There's the I.A.T.S.E standard that you can do your research on. It's online. I can get you the link if you need it.
Please
or
do.
Brian, I'm sure you can type it up really quickly and post it.
That's it. And as a matter of fact, Brian just gave us $10 in the super chat. Thank you so much, Brian. Brian, if you have that link to the what's it called? ESTA?
The ESTA standards.
The ESTA standards. Brian Reed will put that in the show in the notes here. Hopefully, I'm sure he's looking it up right now. I put him on the spot, and then I'll put it in the show notes so we can do that. So the ESTA standards are a good thing to look at. Yeah,
it is, because it tells you all of the limitations that you have. What the cable strengths. Angles of pulleys, cable, it breaks down everything that you need to know.
Awesome.
And it's a great reference.
Amazing.
And then once you know that, then you can more easily go into the choreography part, because you know what those limitations are. Like, for example, when I start a project, I don't start with the equipment. I start with the final picture, and I work my way backwards because I know what I want it to look like.
Mm-hmm.
Then I figure out what equipment it's going to take to do that.
Cool.
I don't want to be limited saying, oh yeah, I got a track system. Okay. But it's not going to give me what I need.
Huh.
So I start with the picture and say, okay, well, I need a track system that has 2 wires where you can rotate. That's going to give me the picture.
I love that.
So I work backwards instead of forwards.
That's backwards engineering, right? What's the vision? What's the vision that you're trying to get to? And then how can we work our way back to making that happen? Making that happen and getting it as close as possible. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Paul, you've been an absolute pleasure to have on the show, man. Just thank you for your insight, your wisdom, and your stories, man. Please let people know where they can find out more about you. Where can they find you on social media, and also where can they go to your website?
My website is theflyguy.com,
Mm-hmm.
TheFlyGui.com. Instagram is theflyguy.ny for New York, because somebody else took the Fly Guy. And Twitter is the Fly Guy, but Instagram and my website are going to give you the most information.
Fantastic. Just thank you so much. We're getting a whole bunch of praise for you from our YouTubers. Thank you so much.
Oh, great. Thanks, guys. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
It has been an absolute pleasure. Paul, go ahead. Paul Carganilla.
Yes, thank you. No, before we say goodbye to Paul, I just want to point out, like, this is not the first time in an episode we've heard like somebody who is interested in aspects of performance that found themselves drawn or just guided in a different direction and went that way and made a super successful career out of something they never dreamed that they would be doing when they were first starting out in performance. And I think there's so much to take away from the aspect of just being open to it and saying yes when somebody says, you know, will you come do this and tour the country, and taking that step and just see the career that it unfolded in front of Paul here. And that's incredible. But just for people in any aspect of any type of career that you're going for, just to know that, like, there with anything that you want to do professionally, there's so many different avenues to either get there or just that are related to that you would enjoy as well. So always put yourself in a position. I love what he said about like finding mentors and asking questions. Always be learning and always be open to whatever the path opens up in front of you. It's not always just straight to an Oscar. Sometimes you're going to find just an amazing life filled with adventures and an incredible career you never dreamed of just by saying yes and trying it.
Amen.
Yeah,
man.
and I, just one quick interjection with that, because exactly what you said. But once I started doing this, and I was still going to college, I started taking costume design classes and welding classes and lighting design classes, just so I knew, because I knew I was going to do this. I knew I was going to be a flying director, but I need to know their industry, because the flying has to intersect with lighting. So, you know, you got to hide the wires, wardrobe, because you have to hide the harness, sound, where you're going to put the microphones, I'm sure there's others, but I can't think of them right now. Yeah. But it literally, you know, hits every department.
That's amazing, man. That's it, man. Educate yourself continually. It's never getting to the top of it and going, I'm done, I know everything. No, you are continually, you're a constant learner, lifelong learner, man.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
The more you know, the more you'll go.
Again, another one. The more you know, the more
the more you'll go.
Like it. Well, Paul Rubin, thank you so much, man, for your time.
My pleasure.
It was awesome. You were an awesome guest. And we want to thank everyone for their. Kelsey, thank you so much for the super chat. We appreciate you. And we want to say thank you to all of our listeners. Hey, Paul Carganilla, how, as he listed himself, the other Paul on the Zoom chat. Hey, Paul, how can people help out the show?
Super simple, just by spreading the word. If you enjoyed this show, tell people about it. And one way you can do that is by leaving a positive review on Apple Podcasts. It helps other people who like listening to stuff like this find this. Just like
people that we've had do it before in the past.
Yes.
No new reviews this week, but we always appreciate it when you do. When you give us a positive review, we'll read it there. You can go to yourcreativejourneypodcast.com to listen to other past episodes. You can also donate over there. We have a little buy me a coffee thing. Anything that you donate helps to pay for server costs and all the other stuff that we do to bring this content to you on a weekly basis. Hey, we won't be audio podcast folks. We won't be here next week. We'll be back in 2 weeks. Same thing I'm going to tell the YouTube folks. We're going to take a week off, but when we come back, we'll be back with Bonnie Utley, who is a coach who's going to help us out. We were going to have her earlier this year, but we're grateful to have her back. So this is going to be an awesome show. So Paul Rubin, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you, Paul.
My pleasure.
Paul Carganilla, thank you for your constant companionship.
Oh, my pleasure.
Hey,
Kevin,
Paul, have a great trip and good luck.
Thank you very much. And Kevin, thank you for bringing us all of the everything that you bring to this show every week.
It's my pleasure. All right, guys, we will see you next week. Thanks, everyone.
Bring in that music from the Swells. Make that another thing.
All right. Gang, that is it. Thank you so much to all of our YouTube folks. Paul Rubin, what an awesome guest. Give it up. Yeah, buddy.
Thanks, guys. Thank you. Thanks.
Awesome, man. Just
and from the East Coast, it's past midnight there now. Thank you.
Came from the same place where Eric Close was born and raised in Staten Island. Yeah. So we got another Staten Islander out there.
That's it.
So, hey man, Paul, thank you so much. YouTube folks, when you get a chance, go check out Paul Rubin stuff. Paul Carganilla. Love you dearly. I think I'm going to end the YouTube feeds because Paul's got to get Everly on a plane. She's got to go do some Hollywood stuff.
Yeah. In another state.
That's how it is. YouTube folks, we'll see you later. Thank you so much. We won't be here next Tuesday. We'll be here the Tuesday after that. So we'll see you then. Hopefully, I think in the next week or so, I'll put up some best of clips that will feed through Vaudacity Network. I'm thinking from some shows that you guys have not seen video on from some of our earlier ones. So I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't have made that promise. Maybe I should have just taken the week off. Anyway, we'll see. YouTube folks, we will see you guys next week. YouTube, Paul, stick around so I can say my bye-byes. Bye. All right. See you later, YouTube people.